Hello and welcome to the Warrior Strengthcast. I'm your host, Shannon Green, and I'm here with my lovely co-host,
Lauren Green. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Breathe heavy into the mic.
I'm not allowed to make fun on the camera. I have to be serious.
It is serious. It's a serious topic today.
I was saying I'm always not serious. I'm the fun one in the relationship. You're the grumpy one.
I am.
That's why we're a good pair.
I like being grumpy.
No shit. Mr. Serious Pants all the time. Anyway, I can't help myself. I'm a clown.
Yeah.
I always have been.
All right. So,
Today we're going to talk to you about injury. We both have a little bit of experience with injury, as most of you will be aware. Check out YouTube. My 1 year anniversary is coming up. So Shannon, I would like you to kick off first to tell us your experience with injury, both personally and professionally.
yeah. So, as I've mentioned before, I have no cartilage in my knees, grade 4 degeneration of the medial compartment in both knees. It didn't come from training. It was a genetic thing. My dad had bad knees from years of basketball. He's basically had dealt with a lot of knee pain as well. I didn't realise though that I always thought that if I trained and looked after him that I would never end up like him with bad knees, but it was just a genetic component, so it was inevitable it was going to happen.
So your leg bones didn't bend from squatting?
No.
Because I've heard someone ask you that. So I just wanted to clarify.
No, they didn't. But I didn't find out till I actually tore my right medial meniscus in 2012, maybe, something like that, 11. And I tore that actually stepping behind my desk at work. Pivoted to turn around and it popped, and anyway went to the sports doctor, got into MRI both knees for me because I wanted to see how both knees were. We went to the specialist and he asked me how long my knees had hurt for, and I said, well, my knees had never hurt. Well, I'd never really noticed them before anyway. And he said, well, you got no knee cartilage, and he's surprised with that amount of damage that I wasn't in any pain.
Tough guy.
Yeah, the only pain I really had was from the actual meniscal tear. Anyway, we did cortisone and PRP, and that helped to remedy that. But I lost a significant amount of range of motion in my right knee. So I've only got maybe 90 degrees, if I'm lucky, of knee flexion. And I never really had any pain. Well, had pain, but not an excessive or debilitating an amount till I actually stopped training my legs, because a lot of people listen to some doctors and stuff and they're like, well, you should stop training because of that knee damage. And I did that for 6 months, and all that did is got me to a point where I could barely walk, and if I had to walk upstairs, I walk upstairs like I was 90 years old.
Yeah.
So it took me about a year to get that rehab and build that strength back up from not training to something. So it's sort of that happy medium I train with now. So I try to do enough volume to keep some strength in the legs, but not so much to irritate it that I have to deal with a significant amount of pain.
Yeah.
My left knee actually is started hurting now, which the surgeon was very surprised because my left knee had the most amount of damage, but I think it's only because I've favoured my left knee for the last 5 or 6 years that actually now the left knee is starting to hurt. But if I think about it in hindsight, and I think back many years ago when I was working security on the door and stuff like that, and I get to the end of the night and my knees would ache, but never had a problem with range of motion. I thought that's, my legs are just sore.
Because you're on them the whole time.
Because I'm on them the whole time. And in strongman, I really really had an issue trying to get my speed up with heavy yoke walks and farmers walks. Doesn't matter how strong I get, once I get that heavy weight on my back, I found it really hard to improve my gait cycle, and I think that was obviously just a component. Yeah, and it was always hard for me to push my squat up. My squat was one of those things that just didn't want to go up. Deadlift was never a problem, and everything else, it was always the squat. So I think back in hindsight, obviously my body was there. There was some warning signs that it didn't really want to push it, because obviously the cartilage or the bone was
bone on bone
compromised per se, but I never actually had a problem with range of motion. But at the time when I tore my meniscus anyway and found out all of that, I didn't want it to be a reality. So I tried. I basically got some range of motion back, tried to make a comeback, but because of then the altered mechanics and me starting to favour one side more than the other, on my way back up trying to make a comeback into strongman, I tore my L4, L5 disc.
Yeah.
Because obviously getting a bit of a twist, and then I was trying to build my deadlift back up, and then that caused that issue. And then from that point, so a back injury is way more debilitating than a knee injury.
Yeah.
And that was dealing with some significant pain then as well. So I've started to realise at that point then maybe there's no reason to sort of push it, even though that I really love deadlifting, I really love stones. I thought, well, I've got to reinvent myself. I can sit here and cry, or I can figure out not what I can't do, but try and figure out what I can do. That's probably the biggest thing I see that people don't do.
Yeah, definitely something that
yeah
holds a lot of people back.
Yes. Don't obsess over what you can't do. Figure out what you can do when you're injured. So I had a client at the time, and I was training with him. He has a hereditary disease called HSP, hereditary spastic paraplegia, which is basically, as time goes on, his legs and all his tendons and muscles stiffen up. So he actually has really poor movement as far as like moving his joints, and he sort of waddles a little bit when he walks. And so I was training in and helping him out, and we got some improvement in his walking gait, made his core stronger, all that sort of stuff. So you got to remember with a disease, like obviously some part of that immobilization is the disease, but there also is going to be part of immobilization or dysfunction of joints from just not being able to utilize them properly and using those muscles. So we just got him to utilize his muscles to the best of his degree that he could, and got some improvement in his life. And at the time I was thinking, I've only got to deal with a little bit of knee pain and back pain. This guy, would probably, give anything to have a decent
sore knee or a sore back.
Yeah, and just have a sore knee and sore back. So sometimes your perception about your injury is not really warranted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's fucking people out there with one leg.
Far worse off than what we are. Yeah.
I mean, you got like Casey Mitchell, who's deadlifting 250 kilos on one leg. Like, really, I have nothing to fucking whinge about that I got sore knees or a sore back. A little bit of pain is not really a bad thing. You know what I mean? As long as, like, I'm not in a wheelchair. So
yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of way worse things that you could be off per se, but I don't know.
Yeah. And so do you think as well, I know you do think, but let's talk about it. With doctors recommending people you just better not train. I know we both experienced that with clients. Yeah. And I know that we both agree that it's kind of the worst advice that you can give to somebody. So I'll let you talk about that, and then I'll talk about it.
That's probably one of my pet peeves. I don't think there is an injury that you cannot train around. If your therapist tells you that you can't train, basically your therapist or your doctor is an idiot. That's my disclaimer, sorry. But they are, because they just don't know anything about training. You can always train around an injury. Obviously, given that you don't have a fucking open wound or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, and if you've got a bad back, you're not trying to deadlift or you're not trying to train the injury. We're talking about training around an injury. While you're injured, you can train. I tore my disc. I didn't stop training. I just figured out what I could do and didn't dwell on what I couldn't do.
Yeah.
So after the initial week of significant pain where you're lying on the floor, crawling to the bathroom, can't get comfortable in bed, sleepless nights, I thought I got to start training. I got to do something. So I just was doing leg extensions, seated calf raises, pressing on a seated machine, doing any sort of chest supported rows, anything I could do that wasn't using my disc, so I wasn't going to make it worse. But the worst thing you can do with an injury is stop your routine, and because you're injured, you're going to move less. You're going to move less. You're going to eat more shit food because you're depressed. So you're going to slow down your metabolism. You're going to eat more shitty food. You're going to get fat. You're going to get more miserable. You need to basically keep your routine in, and you can figure out what you can do and work around it. There's always a workaround, but the biggest thing is you don't want to stop. You need to keep in your routine and keep training in any way, shape or form that you can. The worst injury that I ever trained around, I fractured a rib snowboarding, and that was hard. All I could do was wrist curls, wrist extensions, neck flexion exercises.
That's why you got that big thick neck and thick forearms.
And seated calf raises. So for the first 6 weeks, I just did that. I did it lightweight, and I couldn't go heavy. I couldn't breathe hard, so I couldn't go anywhere near failure.
Yeah.
But I kept training the whole time. So for 6 weeks, I worked on my diet, and I just did those exercises every day, not to failure, but just to do something. So I stayed in my routine. I went for walks, stuff like that. I did anything that wouldn't obviously irritate the rib. And the rib got better. It didn't stop healing. It probably healed faster.
That's
for anything.
exactly what I was about to say. I think people don't really give enough importance to the fact that if you keep training, not only is it keeping your routine and helping with your mindset, but it's helping with the recovery, because your body's still going to be producing more blood flow and just getting more circulation into that area anyway.
And the enemy of pain, obviously, is losing muscle mass. If you're training the limbs, you're going to maintain as much muscle mass as you can, which is what you want to do, because when you start losing muscle mass, you're going to create more pain. So you always got to figure a way to work around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've had clients that have said, I hurt this and I couldn't train, and their doctors or their chiros told them not to train, and that's the dumbest thing. There's always something you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can do a lot of stuff. My young client Zach, he actually snapped both wrists.
I remember that.
He hit a tree on his dirt bike on the farm. His hands went down between the handles. He went over the handlebars and clean snapped both wrists. So he had his wrists in a cast for 12 weeks.
12 weeks, I think it was.
12 weeks. And he was doing really well before he went away for that holiday, and he was really excited about his squat was getting stronger, his deadlift was getting stronger, he was gaining some weight. After the initial week or two of him just lying around in bed he's like, what can I do? Can I train? Is there something I can do? He said, I can't pick up anything. I said, there's plenty you can do. Yeah. So he came in 3 times a week, and he did leg presses, he did leg curls, he did seated calf raises.
Squatted with the safety bar in the end.
Eventually, we worked him up after the 6 weeks. Once he could start holding something, he squatted with the safety bar, but he did back extensions. He walked with the sled. There was a lot of things that he did, but he didn't stop training. And then he was in a cast, and I just loaded the weights for him. And then eventually he was able to squat with a safety bar. He was allowed to start picking some things up, and then obviously we implemented and rehabbed his upper body, slowly started adding stuff in and building up the hierarchy of what he could do. And his squat and deadlift went through the roof, and he was stoked because it was probably one of the best things he actually could have done. So I think it's don't use the injury as a deterrent. Use it as an opportunity to work on something that you need to work on as well. You know, it could be just your diet. Maybe you're going to go now do extra walking. You're going to work on your diet a bit more.
have a focus.
Yeah, have
something.
a focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do.
That is correct. So as anyone who knows me would know that I broke my arm. It's going to be a year this Saturday, actually, since my anniversary of getting my medal plates. So I snapped my arm bench pressing at GPC Nationals last year, so 2017. And I had a week pretty much. Leading into the comp, I had pain in my arm, which I thought was like tendons. And so I had some acupuncture, which really like removed the pain. The week before the comp, I was like, oh, my arm's fine. I had that acupuncture. Once after the comp, I'll rest, get some more acupuncture. Anyway, we'll probably post the video. Arm snapped. Didn't feel it. Thought, what the hell broke? I thought the bar broke. Shannon's like, you dickhead, the bar's not going to break. Like the bar can... And I was like, well, I didn't feel it, so I knew something had snapped. But anyway, so I got some endone and I sort of laid smacked out for the first week and didn't really do anything. Had my arm up on some pillows. Finally got into Netflix. Thanks, Mum, for your password. And... Then after 1 week, I was like, I do not want to be on these drugs anymore. I do not want to sit on my ass anymore. What can I do? So I got down in the gym and I thought, oh, okay, I haven't tried a pistol squat for a while. So I busted out however many reps of pistols. I did a complete lower body workout. And then from that day on, I just said, well, I'm just going to start training. Obviously, I didn't have a program that I had to stick to, which was nice because married to him, his psycho's always got me on a program. But so I had that freedom. And if I wanted to train, I trained. So I pretty much trained 3 days a week. If I really didn't feel like it, I didn't. I just thought whatever. But the good thing with that is that, and I'm pretty good with it anyway, is nutrition. People really underrate how important nutrition is for your recovery. So it is paramount to having a fast recovery. And I had a half cast on, so just the bottom half was casted, and just a bandage over the top. So that really gave me a false sense of security for how strong my arm was straight away. After that first week, I was like, oh, yeah, because I could pick up I've got a giant water bottle. Everyone who knows me knows I drink 5 gallons. So I had this big water bottle. I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, my arm's heaps stronger. And then the day we got the cast off, had some jeans on, was at the doctor's. They took the cast off. That was 2 weeks after the break, so it wasn't very long. Went into the loo and like pulled my jeans up and just twisted my wrist, and the amount of pain, I was like, oh my God. And then I just walked around scared like this after on the way home, and you were like, put that shoulder down, and I was like, oh, but I'm like, and so it was very weak. But even that day, came home, got a stress ball, started to just move it. Okay, that hurts, don't do that again. Or just move that. Okay, that doesn't hurt the second time. Move it around, do what I could. And then, a couple of weeks later, I had a 25-gram plate, and I was just doing little rotations, but just like little things that I could do. And the entire time I trained my right side. Yeah. So they've got to say there's like a 10 to 15% carryover between sides for your muscle and hypertrophy. So I just tried to just stay on top of everything, still pressed and pulled with this arm. And then when I could weight bear a little bit, just did some really light cable rows or some, like with the 1 kilo plate, like curls, dumbbell overhead press, whatever I could do. Got the band out. Didn't want to lose my delts. And then walked in to see a specialist because I had to at the 6-week mark. Typical, well, not typical, but unfortunately, very normal, I guess, in this world. Specialist, all right, show me your range of motion. Oh, you can do it. Oh, that's remarkable. Really impressed with how much you can do if you only broke that 6 weeks ago. How did you break it? Powerlifting. Oh, well, like just put it like that's it. Wall went up. He was like, didn't want me to do anything. He was like, you can only swim. We're going to have to take those plates out. I was just like, I'm never coming back to see this guy again. So, but it just goes to show that, you don't need the whole world to fall apart when you have an injury. Yeah. So I remember when my arm snapped, but my arm had been really sore leading into this comp, and then it had actually been sore for well over a year, but I didn't really notice it. So the fracture was more than likely there for a long time and just kind of slowly broke down over time. And when my arm snapped and I was like surprised, oh, that was my arm. Okay, well, I know what it is now, why my arm was hurting. So that's a good thing, and I was really lucky. 2 clean bone breaks, nothing, no tendons, no ligament damage. It wasn't compound fracture, didn't come through the skin, nothing bloody and gory. And straight away I remember being in the hospital and they were like, oh, do you want me to close those blinds? And I was like, no, leave them open because the sun was beaming straight. Once I got out of emergency, sun was beaming straight in and I just sat there looking out there. And I remember thinking that I have a friend in the UK who's a stunt man, and his wife is also a stunt woman. She had a motorbike accident, and she ended up having to get her arm amputated, which is obviously something that, you know, would be a really hard thing to get your head around. But she is one of the, I don't know, I've never met her because I was back here by the time they were married. She's one of the bravest people that I've ever not come across. She was, obviously, there will be times when she's having a rough time and she's probably not all, you know, sunshine and daisies. But the fact that she was so positive about, well, this is the situation that I've been given, and I'm not gonna let it stop me. You know, there's a lot of things she can't do now. They used to love dirt biking, things like that. Like, she can't do that anymore. She was in a motorbike accident when she nearly lost the whole half of her body. She had to have facial reconstruction, all this stuff. But so, if she can have a limb missing and still come back and say, all right, well, now I'm going to learn how to do martial arts with one arm. And so she's, you know, like all this stuff that I still see her doing, and I'm amazed by her. And I broke my arm. Like, there's the big deal. Yeah. Who gives a fuck? I had 2 broken bones. And the fact that I had 2 weeks in a half cast, that was nothing. You know, like in my arm, in that 2 weeks, the size of my forearms were like ridiculously different. Yeah, I could not in 2 weeks the catabolism that had gone through, and I was good with my diet still. Yeah. So poor Zach with his 12 weeks in a cast, and his little twig arms that came out of it, and for where he is now as well, it's just impressive. Yeah, you can't give up.
100%. But also too, when you break something like a bone, if that bone is bolted together, there's going to be mainly. You can almost do everything. Obviously, you're not going to be an idiot again and just load something crazy.
No, you need to rebuild back up.
Yeah, you need to rebuild back up. But that's probably, as far as rehab goes, that's where people start to go crazy. So the process is you've got to figure out what you can do, not what you can't do. So figure out what you can do. Do the exercises you can do. Stay away from the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't recreate the pain. You need to let those tissues desensitize to the pain triggers, and you need to build the muscles up around the joints. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves. I see people who injure their knees, or they get knee pain, elbow pain, whatever, squatting, competition squat style, powerlifting squats, and then they try and rehab it with lighter competition style powerlifting squats. It's the fucking dumbest thing I've ever heard. What you need to do is stop doing the fucking repetitive nature of what you've been doing and give it a fucking rest. Chill out. Go do something different. Squat to a box. Use a safety bar. Do some single leg work. Do some lunges. Use a leg press. You need to let that motor pattern rest and work on a different motor pattern.
That's another hard thing with people though as well. Nobody wants to regress anything because they don't understand that that's still going to have a carryover to their strength in the long run. Yeah. So someone will be like, oh, I don't want to do lunges. That's a fucking waste of time. It's like, well, actually, no, it's not. Like, you know, all the people that just ditch their accessories, oh, I don't tell my online coach that I don't do my accessories. They're there every week, but maybe I do them once a month. Yeah. It's like, well, don't you think they're in the program for a reason?
Yeah, well, I mean, your squat didn't get weaker and you did single leg presses. No, it certainly lunges.
Didn't. So since then I've sort of said to everyone, if you want your squat and your deadlift to go up, break your arm. Then you have to focus on your lower body. Yeah. Yeah. But
you need to progress it properly. Then obviously you need to work in with a practitioner for whatever your issue is, you know, whether it's back, you need someone who's experienced to guide you through the process, give you the requisite of core work and stuff like that to help rebuild the stiffness in the spine, or if it's a knee, maybe if it's a patella tendonitis or something like that, you might need to do some eccentric work on a leg extension. There's a million and one different exercises you can use to rehab different injuries. You've just got to figure out what they are, and then you need to slowly add load over time. So don't jump straight back into squatting and deadlifting. That's like the worst thing you can do. Try and come back too fast, re-injure, and then you've got another 12 or 16 weeks starting to build up again. Figure out, go, okay, I reckon I could get my squat back up to, let's call it 200 kilos in 12 weeks, right? Well, make that 16 or 20 weeks. Do it even slower. do less reps, less sets, and just the problem with injuries is the tissues around the injury will fatigue very quickly. So sometimes like volume can be the enemy of rehabbing injury. You can just then make it irritated, create more inflammation, and then you've got the whole pain process has started over again. So you've got to implement that slowly. You've got to, a lot of people, because they're strong enough and they go, well, a 20 empty bar squat for me is nothing, you know what I mean? I've squatted 300 kilos. Yeah, it might be nothing for your prime movers or the main muscles, but for that joint capsule or head of the bone or whatever's irritated, that might be a lot of load. So you need to progress that up slowly over time, and then build in the requisite stabilization exercises. And then once you get to a point, and you'll know when you're at that point that everything's good, everything feels good, your movement patterns are right, and then you start to then progress back into your sport.
Yep.
I
agree.
You do agree?
I do agree. But also one thing that I want to stress as well is that how important the small stuff is.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, oh, I've got a bad back. Okay, cool. I just want you to plank for 30 seconds 3 times a day, every day. And even if you do it 5 days a week or 4 days a week, but I want you to do it. Like say you've got a client that's going to come back in the next week, and then they come back in and you're like, okay, how many planks have you done? Oh, I didn't do any. Well, why not? You didn't have 30 seconds spare. You didn't have really a minute and a half that you could have, like 3 minutes really, if you're going to go 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off.
Yeah.
You couldn't have done that. And people do not realise how much of an improvement you can get just by doing a correct plank hold for a back.
Yeah.
So I've got clients who have come in their first session with me. They go, oh, yeah, I used to deadlift, but I stopped deadlifting because I hurt my back. Okay, cool. So for their first 6 weeks, I get them to do planks every session. And now these people, they still come in and they do their planks. Like if they're in early while I'm still with another client, they come in like clockwork. They come in, they do their planks. And guess what? These are the clients who have never said, I've hurt my back again.
Amazing.
I can't. Would you believe it? A plank. It doesn't cost you a thing.
Yeah.
All it is a little bit of floor space. So, do your fucking planks, people.
Yeah, and your bird dogs.
And your bird dog. But just the simple core exercises are the things that people go, oh, it's not really that hard. Well, if it's not that hard, you're probably not doing them properly, because you could make them hard. You want to focus on actually creating some tension and building some strength and stability. But, yeah, there's sometimes the things that aren't that hard which have the biggest carryover.
Yeah. Well, just on that, on planks and stuff like that, people think by doing an exercise, that's an automatic indication that it's actually going to give them something. The exercise doesn't mean anything. If you do that exercise incorrectly and you miss the actual point of the exercise, what you're trying to develop from that exercise, then you don't get that benefit from the exercise. So people think, oh, close grip bench targets my triceps. Maybe, but not if you do it wrong. You just end up with a sore shoulder.
Yeah.
And the plank's the same. You're trying to use it to create spinal stiffness. So hanging on your joints, doing a plank, and fucking being on your phone. If you can get on Facebook and shit on you while you're doing a fucking plank, you're not doing a plank. You're not working on focusing on tension.
Yeah.
Same with the bird dog, all the body twisting everywhere, being all sloppy. You're trying to create stiffness with these exercises, these rehab exercises. You're trying to make them be hard. You're trying to learn to stabilize, create more stabilization, stability, stiffness.
Do them with intent.
Yeah, you got to have the right intent when you're doing them. Just by adding a plank into your program is not going to guarantee that you don't hurt your back. You need to do the plank properly.
Yeah.
Which is a massive thing.
It is.
And the rest of your exercises, do them
all your
too.
exercises. Everything should be done with intent.
Yes.
I had a day, I don't know, must have been tired or whatever. My clients walked into the gym and I just blew up at everyone. No one's training with intent. You just don't go on the back extension and just swing up and down. I'm like, what muscles are you trying to use there? Make them burn. You down there with the plank. Everyone was like, what the fuck is going on with Loz? I was like, I'm going to go and make a coffee and I'll be back in a minute. And then I came back and they were like, hi, I just did those really hard. And I was like, excellent. Everyone's back on the right track. Got to crack that whip every now and then.
Yeah.
Everyone just thinks I'm always nice. Every now and then a bit of Shannon will shine through. Yeah.
And then sometimes some niceness will shine through me.
I know. People spoke about that actually. Shannon's never been so happy until I came along.
Relax you.
That's true. You know it's true. You going red? You going red?
That's my shirt.
going to get hot in that beanie in a minute.
No, it's all right. It's cold today.
Yeah, that's why you got a t-shirt on.
And that's a t-shirt and a beanie. This is the way. It's the way.
It's just the look.
It's like a little bit of air conditioning. Yeah. Without the jumper on, it's a bit too hot.
Yeah.
My head's already like a beetroot that doesn't lose much heat.
I've seen worse beetroots. You're okay. So what else do we want to cover? With regards to injury, let's not delve into another topic right now.
I don't know.
Anything specific for, well, we did broken bones.
Yeah. So, any sort of pain, any joint pain per se,
What about muscle tears?
Yeah, well, with pain, really, sometimes like people have pain, a tendon pain or joint pain, where you're getting that pain does not necessarily mean that's the site of injury.
Yep.
A lot of the times the pain is only the symptom. So it's where if you've got some sort of shoulder dysfunction and your lat's tight and your pec's tight or whatever, and you're getting bicep tendonitis in the bicipital groove at the top or something like that, it's not, the issue is not the bicep tendon, and you don't need to rub out the bicep tendon. What you need to do is fix the mechanics of that shoulder. And obviously the hip can be the same. Some people having knee pain, but the pain is not actually in the knee. The knee is the symptom because of the dysfunction in the joint, and it could be coming from the mechanics of the hip or the lower back. There's the ankle, the calf. There's a lot of places that it can come from. So obviously working in with a good practitioner that's going to do a whole holistic assessment and have a look at the range of motion of the joints and figuring out. I'm always wary about someone who say this hurts here, and then they go straight to the side of pain and go, well, hang on, let's have a look at the joint, how it moves, figure out where it's restricted, let's figure out what's the tightest, and let's release that, test and retest and see if you're actually getting reduction in pain and improvement in range of motion. So that's probably something that's big like that. Muscle tears, again, you just got to come back slow. Blood flow to an injured area is key. You're going to bring nutrients and blood in and out, waste products in and out of the area. So I've torn a pec before, and I just bench pressed with an empty bar every day. Started in the range of motion that I could that wouldn't create any pain, so you always try and stay away from the pain. So that was like half reps, and I worked it up to doing sets of 100, and then I was doing sets of 100 with full range. And then 3 to 4 weeks in, I was adding load, and then eventually I was back to normal bench pressing over time, but I didn't just rest it and do nothing and let my whole shoulder and pec bind up.
Yep.
I moved that area, I got treatment on it. You got to be proactive with this stuff. And again, working on the diet will help a lot. A lot of people don't give any credit to that. They get an injury and then they get all sad and eat donuts, and it's Krispy Kremes ain't going to help you, brother.
No. A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips.
Yeah.
I think as well, this is probably a good time to start talking about prehab. So, people that like neglect doing a little bit of mobility or even jumping on the foam roller, like whether or not the foam roller works, you've got tight ITBs and that foam roller feels like a bitch. You want to get on it. You need to be working on that. So I know with a lot of people who, once they've started training with me for say 3 months, I'll be like, they're like, I'm a bit sore here, and I'll touch their traps and they'll be like, boom, and I'm like, you need to go and get a sports massage, or no, like that hurts. Also, this is probably when you really need to get it then. So I get them on a ball, trying to release their scapula or whatever up against the wall, and they're just, the pain faces that they have are ridiculous. So when you can't be pressed by a 5-year-old that you need to sort of get on top of why your muscles are so tight and not neglect that you can train hard. It means you need to look after your body hard as well.
Yeah, and little injuries and stuff can pop up, and it's probably a good indication if you're a power lifter and you're doing you're doing a program, you got a lot of volume in your program, and things start to hurt and then you twinge things, that's your body giving you an indicator that you're doing too much.
Yeah,
So
the
if you're
warning.
doing too much training, you're not sleeping enough, you're not hydrated enough, or you're not eating enough. Or it's a combination of all. A lot of the time it's a combination of all, but sometimes that can be an indicator as some data that you can put in your training diary that's when you got injured. Then maybe you need to go back and look over your training program and reduce the volume a little bit so that doesn't happen. The body can only stand so much stuff, and then it's going to fight back, and it's going to do something to make you stop.
That's where people either get sick or they get injured.
Yeah,
because they didn't listen. How many times you've heard someone get injured and go, well, I should have listened to my body, or there was a warning sign there.
Yeah.
You know, I had a client recently tear her calf.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, my calf sort of started to seize up a little bit in the first quarter of netball, and then I just tried to rub it out in the break.
Yeah.
And she said, and then I ran back out and pop, off it went.
Yeah.
So, yeah. She's like, I probably should have listened. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Same as with me with my arm, though. You know, I mean, we all do it.
Yeah.
But like, I did sort of get it checked out though, and no one ever said to me, "Well, it could be the bone. Let's get probably an X-ray wouldn't have shown it,
Yeah.
but maybe an ultrasound would have." But no one ever suggested it was the bone, and
Yeah.
so I was like, because I was prepping for a comp, I was sore everywhere. I was tight. So someone would go, oh, we'll release your lat. How's your arm feel? Oh, I think that feels a bit better. You know, oh, no, there it is again. But it kind of only hurt when I bench pressed. There was not one other thing that I did that made it hurt.
Yeah.
And for all you experts out there, it wasn't osteoporosis, but I have increased my milk and my time in the sun throughout summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was...
Got your vitamin D up.
Got my vitamin D up. Got
Yeah.
rid of that osteoporosis.
Got rid of the power suit.
Got rid of the power. No, I still wear the. No, I only wear the power suit at comp. I didn't get rid of the arch either. It wasn't from the arch. Well, apparently, according to all the trolls, it was the arch. Shit technique and lightweight.
Yeah.
Only 1.5 times body weight, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Or more than that, actually. But anyway, yeah, I just think. You know, I got the acupuncture, and that was the one thing that got rid of all the pain, and I was in that false sense of security that it was all right. But yeah, sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get phantom joint pain essentially in a heavy training cycle, especially if you're peaking for a comp. Right now, I'm teetering on the borderline of my elbows, having a penis elbow, as Sebastian would call it. But I just try and pull it back and just sort of teeter on that edge where I'm not going to get too much elbow pain, because I know in a couple more weeks I'm going to taper off and rest and then peak for the comp, and the elbows won't hurt. So you also need to be able to decipher whether that pain is just because of the amount of inflammation you got going on in your body because you're peaking for a competition, or that you're actually seriously going to injure something as well. So obviously that comes with experience too.
It does.
Yeah.
I will know now if I ever have bone pain again. I put on... I found a photo on my phone and I was like, oh my God, look, it was well over a year that I had the pain in my arm, because I'd sent a photo to my friend. Oh, look, my arm hurts right here. Have you ever had that before? Yeah. And then I said, but now I know about the difference between bone pain and Tiny Stone Giant on Instagram. It's like, well, what was the difference between like normal pain and bone pain? And I think I wrote something like when somebody pressed on the bone, I wanted to like drive a knife into their skull and twist it through their brain. And he was like, whoa. And I was like, well, I couldn't just go, oh, it really hurt. I had to be, it had to be descriptive. Silly me.
Yeah. So, don't be an idiot.
Be an idiot, but be a sensible idiot.
Yeah.
No, you need to know, because I mean, no one's going to prep for a comp and feel all rosy, generally.
But even if you're not a competitive lifter and you get an injury, even if it's a work injury or whatever, the worst thing you can do is break your routine. You've got to stay in that routine, especially if you're a power lifter and it's something you do and it's part of your life and you've been doing it for 10 years, you jumping back on the wagon in 4 to 6 weeks' time is not going to be an issue. You just go back into training and it's just like it never happened. For the average person, though, that's trying to achieve something in the gym, and though, like, injuries are just going to happen, you know what I mean? You might twist your ankle in the gutter at work or something like that. Don't stop training. Just figure out what you can do, not what you can't do, and then just keep going forward, because you're still making progress. although you're not going to have the same feeling like when I broke my rib, obviously wrist curls and seated calf raises and neck extension.
Didn't give you a massive endorphin rush.
I wasn't getting the same endorphin rush as squatting and deadlifting, but I didn't want to break my routine, and I didn't want to not train, and I wanted to hold on to as much muscle mass as I could.
Yeah.
And that was the whole goal. So if you stop training, you're going to lose muscle mass, you're going to get fat.
You're going to lose momentum, because I know
And then your
even
momentum,
myself,
which is even worse.
if I'm not training, I tend to not be as on top of my diet, and I'm still pretty good regardless. But if I'm not on top of my diet, people who are already not on top of their diet, they stop training, which is the one thing that was keeping them accountable with their diet. Then it's all going out the window.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy or girl. Cool. Well,
all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was informative.
Please remember to give us a like, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes.
Yep, and
subscribe on Instagram. On YouTube.
On YouTube, and give us a like as well.
Give us a like.
Yeah.
And just leave us any feedback. If you've got anything that you want us to talk about, let us know, because we've got a long list of things that we want to discuss. But if there's anything new that pops up there, we're more than happy to do so.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.